Welcome to Domain 1, Section 1.1, AI Governance Concepts. In this session, we will unpack what AI governance actually means, why it matters, and how an organization can tell whether it is truly ready to use artificial intelligence in a responsible way. We will look at the core building blocks of governance, the fresh risks and considerations that AI brings with it, and the practical questions leaders should be asking before they ever switch on an AI system. So, why should this matter to you beyond passing the exam? Picture yourself in a meeting where someone proposes adopting a shiny new AI tool. This knowledge lets you ask the sharp questions that separate a safe rollout from an expensive mistake, and to judge whether your organization has the right oversight, skills, and guardrails before money and reputation are on the line. It also helps you spot when a team is quietly using an AI tool without approval, which is one of the most common ways risk slips into a business unnoticed. Let's begin with the central idea. AI governance is the senior level oversight, the processes, the standards, and the safeguards that together make sure artificial intelligence is used safely and ethically. In plain English, governance is simply the system of rules and supervision that keeps a powerful tool pointed in the right direction. Think about how a city manages its traffic. Cars are powerful and useful, but without traffic lights, lane markings, speed limits, and someone watching the intersections, you would have chaos. Governance is that entire system of signals and rules. But for AI, a governance framework guides how AI is researched, built, and used, so that the end result respects safety, fairness, and basic human rights. Now, here is a subtle but important point. AI is built by people. It is made of carefully engineered code and something called machine learning, which is just a way for software to learn patterns from large amounts of data, rather than being told every single rule by hand. Because humans create and maintain it, AI quietly absorbs human flaws. Our blind spots, our assumptions, and our mistakes can get baked right into the system, and that can lead to unfair or even harmful outcomes for real people. Imagine a recipe handed down through a family for generations. If the very first cook always undersalted the dish out of personal taste, every cook who follows that recipe repeats the same quirk without ever realizing it. AI inherits the quirks of its creators in much the same way. This is exactly why governance gives us a structured way to manage that risk. It works through three practical levers. The first is sound AI policy, which sets the internal rules for acceptable use. The second is regulation, which is the external legal expectations the organization is required to meet. The third is data governance, which is careful control over the data that feeds the system. Working together, these make sure the learning algorithms are regularly monitored, reviewed, and updated, so they do not start making flawed decisions and that the data used to train them stays clean and well maintained. Next come transparency and explainability. These two ideas sit at the very heart of what we call responsible AI. Transparency means being open about how a system works. Explainability means being able to clearly describe why the system reached a particular decision. Picture a student solving a maths problem. Getting the right answer is not enough on its own. A good teacher asks the student to show their working. We need AI to show it's working too, because these systems make decisions that affect people's lives, and we must be able to confirm those decisions are fair, ethical, and that a real person remains accountable for them. There is one more shift worth understanding. Strong governance reaches beyond simply ticking legal boxes, because it is really about holding ethical standards steady over time. That matters because AI models can drift or hallucinate. Drift is when a model slowly becomes less accurate as the world around it changes. A little like a clock that loses a few seconds every day until, eventually, it is badly wrong. Hallucination is when an AI states something false with complete confidence, rather like a person who cheerfully gives you detailed directions to a place they have never actually visited. Because of risks like these, modern governance is moving away from pure legal compliance and toward genuine social responsibility, which shields the organization from financial loss, legal trouble, and reputational damage, while still allowing healthy and responsible growth. Adopting AI also opens up a set of new considerations that every enterprise should weigh. So let's walk through them one at a time. The first is greater confidence in the technology used to gather data, along with a stronger guarantee of that data's quality. Good decisions depend on good inputs, in the same way that clean water depends on a clean source. The second consideration is the need for transparency and explainability whenever automated systems take over tasks that people used to do by hand, which means clearly understanding the system's objectives, its underlying assumptions, and the rules it follows. Here is a simple example. If you ask a colleague to send the report out first thing, they grasp your intent instantly from context. An AI system has no such instinct. So a loose instruction like that must be translated into precise, unambiguous steps, or the machine will simply get it wrong. The third consideration is competitive pressure, because an organization that uses AI well can move faster and at lower cost than one that does not. And that gap shows up plainly in its sales and operations. The fourth is the danger of biases, errors, and other harm caused by the decisions an AI model makes. The fifth is a growing gap between how fast these self-learning systems change and how slowly human oversight and compliance controls can keep up. The technology sprints while the rulebook walks. The sixth consideration is the impact on the workforce, which includes the risk of discrimination, threats to the fundamental rights of workers, jobs becoming redundant through automation, and even the loss of valuable organizational knowledge when experienced work is handed over to machines. The seventh, on a brighter note, is that AI can free people for more creative work by taking over tasks that are repetitive, trivial, or dangerous. The eighth is the effect on commercial operations and on brand reputation, both of which can rise or fall depending on how carefully AI is handled. And the ninth is that AI can actually reduce or even remove certain existing risks. For instance, when a system tirelessly double-checks routine work or keeps a constant watch for rare problems that a tired human might miss, it can lower the chance of error rather than raise it. Now, let's shift to the second major idea in this section, which is AI readiness. Organizations often feel pressure to adopt AI quickly, but the smart first move is to pause and honestly assess whether the organization is genuinely ready to use AI with proper governance in place. The governing body, meaning the senior leaders and the board who are ultimately accountable, should ask itself a series of pointed questions, and then management and the supporting teams act on the answers. Think of it like preparing for a long road trip. Before you set off, you check the fuel, the tires, the route, and whether everyone in the car knows the plan. Racing onto the motorway without those checks is exactly how journeys go wrong. So what does the organization actually examine? It looks across several connected areas. It examines value and return on investment, asking whether the AI is truly delivering business value and how that success is being measured. Return on investment simply means what you get back compared to what you put in. It checks business alignment, making sure the AI supports the organization's long-term mission, vision, rather than being technology adopted just for its own sake. And it assesses organizational readiness, asking whether the culture, the operations, the talent, and the change management plans can genuinely absorb AI. The assessment then turns to risk and compliance. It looks hard at risk management, asking what could go wrong across ethical, security, and reputational lines, and whether AI risk has been folded into the organization's central risk register, which is just the master list of risks a business actively tracks. It reviews regulatory compliance and ethical use, confirming that the organization keeps pace with evolving AI laws and has frameworks to keep its systems fair, transparent, and accountable. And it confirms data privacy and security, making sure sensitive internal and external information is properly protected. Finally, the assessment weighs the practical foundations. It plans for bias mitigation with concrete steps to find and reduce unfair outcomes. It considers legal and contractual obligations and whether a recognized governance framework has actually been adopted. It checks finance, making sure the right level of people, time, and budget has been set aside. It looks at project planning, so there is a clear view of how resources are used and what outcomes are expected. and it addresses people asking whether staff have the right skills, guardrails, and training, and whether clear performance indicators, meaning the measurable targets used to track progress, have been defined and monitored. Once an organisation has honestly judged its readiness, it should make sure a few key building blocks are in place for a real AI governance system. There are 4 of them. The first is a mature governance process for information and technology, often shortened to I&T, that genuinely reflects stakeholder needs, sets balanced and agreed objectives, gives direction through clear priorities and decisions, and keeps watch over performance and compliance. The second is mature processes for managing innovation, for managing the overall portfolio of projects, and for handling external compliance. The third is the right governance structures, such as a governance committee, a board of directors, a technology strategy committee, and risk and audit committees. And the fourth is the skills to make informed AI decisions, which means having the right people in place who actually hold the knowledge to carry the work out. To pull all of this together, organisations often use a structured self-assessment, a questionnaire that scores how mature their AI governance really is. It probes whether AI use aligns with the organisation's values and vision, whether the intended benefits have been clearly identified and measured, and which metrics will confirm that those benefits are actually achieved. It asks whether organisational risk has been identified, then assessed in a measurable, quantitative way, and whether a response has been defined for each risk. Here, it is worth remembering that choosing to simply accept a risk is a perfectly valid response, as long as it is a conscious, deliberate decision. It also checks whether the organisation has the right internal and external resources, whether a cross-functional AI governing body or steering committee has been set up and has given clear guidance on both the benefits and the limits of AI, and whether monitoring is in place to stay compliant with relevant laws. Each point is usually rated on a simple scale, from fully in place to largely, to partially, to not at all, or unknown, which gives leaders an honest snapshot of exactly where the gaps are. Let's bring it all together. AI governance is the oversight, the processes, the standards, and the safeguards that keep artificial intelligence safe, fair, and ethical. It exists because AI inherits human flaws, so it relies on sound policy, regulation, and strong data governance to stay on track. Transparency and explainability build trust, and good governance protects against drift, hallucination, and the financial, legal, and reputational damage that can follow. We also explored the new considerations AI brings, and we saw that readiness always comes first, judged across value, risk, compliance, data protection, bias, finance, planning, and people. You have done the hard part by working through these concepts. Every important topic and idea from this session is covered in the multiple choice questions on RooCloud.com. Before you move on to the next session, take some time to work through the chapter-wise questions there, because answering them is the single best way to lock this knowledge into memory and make it exam ready. Practice first, and then move forward with confidence. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.